Okay, before we start, we quickly want to mention that fans of the channel might remember that we've already taken a look at these legs, the Pinter Peak tripod legs, in a previous video that we made about a year ago on the channel. We compared them to a small rig tripod and a Sure tripod. So if you want to see more about these legs, you can go and check out that video because a lot of our opinions will be the same. However, this new head, which is what this video is about, has kind of changed our outlook on the system as a whole. So stick around to the end to hear more about that. What we're looking at here today is the YC Onion CEDAR CB7 counterbalanced fluid tripod head. Now, in terms of build quality, what we see here is that everything is nicely built and machined and feels very solid and premium. Now, in fairness, this head probably does add a little bit more weight to this tripod system than you might be expecting, but we do think the trade-off is worth it for the extra stability and rigidity that you will get because of that extra weight. The head can take cameras all the way up to 9 kilograms and it features 3 main gears. One controls the drag for your pan, one controls the drag for your tilt, as well as one for spring-loaded counterbalance. All of these are adjustable and they have quite a few levels to select from. Now, we've already taken a look at this head with a larger camera and it seemed pretty good. To be honest, it exceeded my expectations for what a head of this size and price can deliver. One thing we will note though is that with the counterbalance system, when you change a setting, it takes a second to click in. So you'll adjust it, you'll move the tripod and have it click in. You're probably not going to be able to add tension in the middle of the pan because not only will you get audible clicks from adjustment, but you're also going to see the bump as it engages. Now all of that is a little bit odd to get used to, but in fairness, I don't think it's a huge problem if you acknowledge that you just have to give it that little bit of a wiggle to engage. Now remember, this is a slightly cheaper tripod head, so some compromises are probably acceptable. When the counterbalance is engaged, it is generally great, but it has its quirks. If you're just looking to add some resistance to your pans and tilts, we found it more than adequate. But if you're after something that holds the head exactly where you left it without needing to touch the lock mechanism, it can do that in most positions, but it takes constant adjustment depending on your camera, lens, and tilt angle. Even when balanced, because this is a spring-based system, too little counterbalance and the head will find itself tilting forward or back. Too much and it becomes very springy, pulling itself back towards the center even if you don't necessarily want it to. Now either way, you will normally need to click it into a new position when adjusting the settings. For us, this isn't a huge issue. We're in the habit of locking our head whenever we're not using it. But for something this lightweight and size, it is exceeding our expectations. But for some use cases, it is something that we wanted to mention. The head itself has a flat base design, and we've got it paired with YC Onion's coconut base, which is pretty cool. It features a novel design with a quick release to allow you to level the camera quickly without unscrewing the bottom. There are also several tools hidden along the head. So for example, you've got some extra screws over here, you've got an Allen key and a screwdriver, and they're all tucked away and very convenient. We've seen this on a couple of tripods recently, and it's just a really nice feature to have. That peace of mind when you go out into the field and you know you've got a couple of extra bits and bobs if you are missing anything. There's also a light for the spirit level, so that if you're in the dark, you can hit the torch and you can see if you're level. There's also a telescopic arm that can go on either side. Now, this head should still be compatible with the riser that we took a look at in the other video, but with a head this large, it's probably not something that we're going to recommend you pick up unless you already have it. Okay, now let's talk about plates. This is where this tripod head does get a little bit interesting. We'll talk about why in a second. To start with, it is a slide-in only style plate. It does take Manfrotto 501 plates, and we have checked that it does work with the official Manfrotto plates, because that's not always the case. In the box, you get one standard slide-in plate, and you also get an adapter here, which comes with a couple of extra features. So let's talk about that. Now, I want to start the section by acknowledging that we are probably being a little bit nitpicky here, and you don't have to use this adapter. But we found the adapter to be a little bit confusing. On the bottom, it's a slide-in Manfrotto 501 plate, and on the top, however, it's got a multi-purpose plate function. The first is a drop-in style, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And on the bottom is a 38mm Arca Swiss, which is kind of neat. So for example, some camera cages, like this tilter cage that we have for the S9, does fit straight on, right? Which is really cool if you're using a DJI gimbal, for example, like I do with this camera, because they will be cross-compatible. So that's neat. But what we do find a little bit weird is the drop-in plate over here. It's a 45mm and it doesn't seem particularly standardized with anything else that we've used. We also don't think that it's large enough for the bigger cameras that the tripod is aiming to support. And look, that's just our opinion. There's nothing here that indicates that it wouldn't be suitable. But if I'm personally putting my C400 on this, I'm probably going to put it straight on a Manfrotto style plate and not this little adapter. But like I say, your use case may vary. And if you see a use for it, that's cool. So while it is interesting, it does feel a little bit like they're trying to do too much with too little over here. There's just a lot going on. This is something Taylor and I did talk quite a lot about because obviously we do see value in things like this individually. But when it comes down to it, for a tripod this size, we think we'd prefer to have just a drop-in style plate on top and be done with it. Now in the box, they do also include an adapter to go from that drop-in style plate to something that you can mount to any other tripod, I suppose. Now, while there might be some value in this, I think Taylor and I would have preferred if they'd shaved a couple of dollars off of this system and just included a standard plate and then sell these separately on their website. It's not to say that they're bad, we just think that they're honestly just a little bit confusing. So to wrap up our thoughts on this head, to be honest, we're quite fond of it. We think it's really good for the price range, and it's one that we're probably looking to recommend for a lot of people. It's also a tripod head that can support larger and smaller cameras, which means that it's something that you can probably grow into over time in your career if you did pick it up now. Tripods are one of those things that if you buy right, it can stick with you for a very long time. Now let's take a step back and start talking about the tripod system in general instead of just the head. When we originally looked at these legs with the other head, we still liked them, but they weren't our favorite choice. I think we picked the Sure in that video. If this tripod had this head when we did that video, I think Taylor and I would have probably picked this as our number one pick. It's a really solid option, it's built well, and it's still quite lightweight because the legs are carbon fiber and all that. And it's priced aggressively. When you take these legs and put this head on it, the larger, more robust head gives the whole system extra stability and weight, and it just makes everything feel a lot sturdier and a lot more robust, especially if you're using medium to large sized cameras. So that just about does it here for us today. This is probably our go-to tripod recommendation right now until things change. If you're interested, we'll leave a link down in the description to where you can pick it up. And if you like this video, consider giving us a like and a subscribe, put a comment down below if you've got any questions, and we'll see you next time. Feeling good.